Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
This time,
Always exciting.
we're taking you on
Big
kind of wild ride through
capitalism?
technology, politics,
Oh, yeah.
even little philosophy, maybe.
Little bit.
You guys sent in a ton of stuff,
Yeah.
mostly from that Joe Rogan podcast with Elon Musk.
Oh, the big one.
It's packed with his
Yeah.
takes on, well, what's going on in the world right now. So
Yeah.
let's dive in.
Classic Elon.
One of the first things
Right, no shy way.
I noted was
From anything.
video games.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't just think they're like
Right.
entertainment.
Right.
He actually thinks they can make you
Mm-hmm.
mentally sharper.
Yeah.
He even uses them as like
I love that.
a personal test for
A personal benchmark.
how mentally on point he is.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
So it's like a
it's like
gym for your brain.
a gym for your brain. There are actual studies
Oh,
showing surgeons who play video games make fewer mistakes.
really?
Think about it, the hand-eye coordination,
Yeah.
the quick thinking,
Yeah.
those skills can definitely have real-world benefits.
So cool.
There's a whole field called neurogaming,
Oh, wow.
exploring this, using games to enhance cognitive function,
Wow.
and even treat conditions like ADHD.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
From video games
Yeah.
to something that always sparks a heated debate,
Mm-hmm.
animal agriculture
Right?
and its impact
Yeah.
on climate change.
Yeah.
Musk thinks cutting back on meat
Okay.
won't make a dent in global warming.
Interesting. So he's a big proponent of
Like, at all.
regenerative farming,
Okay.
which focuses on practices that actually pull carbon
Wow.
from the atmosphere
Okay.
and store it in the soil.
Wow.
He argues that this approach is carbon neutral and that focusing on industrial emissions and renewable energy is far more impactful than
Yeah.
individual dietary choices.
So he's basically saying that, like,
Yeah.
while going vegan might make you feel good, it's not going to,
It's not going to...
like, move the needle on a
Yeah.
global scale.
That's the gist of it. It raises a really important question, though.
Yeah.
Where do we focus our efforts on climate change?
Yeah.
Individual actions versus systemic change.
Right.
Both are important,
Yeah.
but it's a complicated issue
For sure.
with no easy answers.
Definitely a lot to unpack there. Tons.
Yeah.
Now, we can't talk about Musk
True.
without addressing his
The big one.
acquisition of Twitter,
Right.
which is now called X.
Next.
He was super vocal about his reasons,
Right.
especially his concern about censorship and how narratives are controlled.
Yeah.
So,
He's talked a lot about his discomfort with how
sure.
some figures, like Donald Trump,
Right.
were banned from the platform.
Yeah.
And how information, like the Hunter Biden laptop story,
Right.
was suppressed.
Right.
He clearly sees X as a platform
Yeah.
for open dialogue and less restricted information sharing.
He's framing it as like
Yeah,
a battle for free speech.
for sure.
But how is he actually tackling
Right.
like misinformation on X?
That's where community notes come in.
Okay.
It's basically crowdsourced fact-checking,
Oh, way.
where users can add context and corrections to posts.
Gotcha.
It's an interesting experiment in
Yeah.
using the community to police information.
Right.
But whether it's effective
Yeah.
is still up for debate.
Like the wisdom of the crowd
Yeah.
applied to fact checking.
Exactly.
Let's move on to
Ah.
Musk's very pointed criticisms
Yeah.
of probative justice.
Oh, yeah.
What he calls government overreach.
Mm-hmm.
He claims the DOJ
Right.
is pursuing a lawsuit
Yeah.
against SpaceX
Mm-hmm.
for not hiring asylum seekers,
Interesting.
even though they are legally restricted
Huh.
from hiring non-permanent residents
Right.
for certain roles,
I like that.
especially those
Makes sense.
involving
Sure.
sensitive technologies.
Yeah.
He also uses
Okay.
a pretty striking example to illustrate his point.
Okay.
A man whose pet squirrel and raccoon
Okay.
were seized and euthanized by the authorities,
What?
even though they weren't harming anyone.
He's pets.
Wait, what? They took his pets?
Yes. While it might sound bizarre,
Yeah.
Musk uses this seemingly small incident
Right.
to talk about a much bigger issue.
Okay.
The potential for the government to overstep its boundaries
Right.
and erode individual liberties.
Yeah.
He's saying if they can do this over a pet squirrel,
Right.
what else are they capable of?
Right. Yeah.
It makes you think.
It's a thought-provoking way
Definitely.
to get people thinking about the balance of power between citizens and the government.
For sure.
Now, speaking of power,
Okay.
let's dive into the 2024 election.
Oh, yeah.
Musk paints
Yeah.
a pretty stark picture
Okay.
of the future
All right.
of American democracy, calling this election a critical moment.
Yeah.
He expresses serious concerns about potential voter fraud
Right.
and the possibility of the U.S. becoming a one-party state.
Doesn't hold back.
He doesn't hold back, does he?
Not at all.
He's especially critical of practices like flying undocumented immigrants to swing states, arguing that these actions are aimed at manipulating election results. He also highlights the importance of voter ID laws to prevent fraud.
Okay.
But it's important to note, he often makes these claims without offering specific evidence.
Yeah, that's true.
So while he's tapping into existing anxieties about election integrity,
For sure.
he's not exactly providing concrete proof.
Right. It's crucial for anyone listening
Yeah.
to critically evaluate these claims and consult reliable sources of information before forming their own conclusions.
Solid advice.
It's important.
And of course, we can't forget
Sure.
Musk's infamous
Right.
critiques of mainstream media. He really goes after them, accusing them of pushing false narratives, especially about Donald Trump, and having a strong bias towards the Democratic Party.
Right. His view reflects a wider trend of distrust in traditional news sources,
For sure.
fueled by the rise of alternative media platforms. He contrasts this with his vision for X as a more balanced platform for information sharing.
But doesn't that lead to
But
echo chambers and the spread of misinformation?
for sure. It's a tricky landscape to navigate.
Absolutely. It's more important than ever to be discerning about the information we consume, to consider the source, and to be open to different viewpoints. You got to hear all sides.
Solid advice for navigating the information age.
It's tough out there.
Speaking of navigating the future,
Okay.
Musk makes some bold predictions about the impact of AI and robotics, envisioning a world where robots actually outnumber humans.
Wow.
He talks about both the opportunities and the challenges this technological revolution will bring, including the need to find meaning in a world where machines might surpass us.
It's a trip, right? Robots outnumbering humans. It's mind-blowing. That's a mind-blowing thought.
It is. And it raises profound questions about the future of work, the very nature of consciousness, and the ethical consideration surrounding artificial intelligence.
We've covered so much. Video games, climate change, social media, politics, government overreach, and the future of AI, all through the lens of Elon Musk's often controversial opinions.
It's been quite a ride.
It's a lot to take in.
And we're just getting started.
It's been quite a ride.
Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into the mind of Elon Musk, where we'll explore his views on drug policy, government regulation, and his vision for a more efficient bureaucracy.
Cool.
See you there.
Sounds good. Back for part 2 of our deep dive into the mind of Elon Musk.
A lot of ground to cover.
We've already covered a ton of ground, but there's still so much to unpack
Very
from
much.
this Joe Rogan interview. Last we left off, we were talking about Musk's predictions for a future with AI and robots. But he's not just a tech guy. He's got
opinions.
some pretty strong opinions
On everything.
on other topics,
It seems
like drug policy.
Doesn't shy away from controversy.
He definitely doesn't shy away from controversy.
What's interesting is his seemingly open-minded stance on certain drugs, especially psychedelics, like MDMA and psilocybin. He even suggests that if people consistently report positive transformations from a drug, maybe the FDA should consider legalizing it.
Wow. That's a bold statement.
It is bold.
So instead of the traditional war on drugs approach, he's advocating for a more evidence-based system.
It seems so. He acknowledges the dangers of some drugs, but argues that making everything illegal often creates more problems than it solves. He brings up the opioid crisis, saying that the black market for these drugs has actually made things worse.
Wow.
By fueling the spread of fentanyl and other dangerous synthetic opioids.
So it's like he's saying that prohibition can backfire and lead to unintended consequences.
Exactly. He also points out what he sees as hypocrisy in the system. We outlaw certain drugs, while others, like alcohol and prescription opioids, are legal, despite their potential for harm. He seems to be pushing for a drug policy that's more focused on harm reduction and personal freedom.
It's definitely a different way of looking at things. Shifting gears a bit. Musk also has some
strong feelings
about government bureaucracy. He's actually proposed creating a Department of Government Efficiency.
Wow. Interesting.
With the goal of streamlining things. And eliminating waste.
I like it.
He argues that the current system is bloated and inefficient, bogged down by too many regulations and agencies that actually hinder progress.
I can see that.
He uses this great analogy to illustrate his point. Imagine a football field. So crowded with referees that the players can barely move.
I love that. That's a great analogy.
That's a perfect image. He's basically saying the government has gotten so caught up in its own processes that it's forgotten its main purpose to serve the people. He even suggests offering generous severance packages to government employees whose positions are eliminated as part of this streamlining process.
Makes sense.
His reasoning is that this would soften the blow of job losses while freeing up talented individuals to pursue other opportunities.
Interesting idea.
So he wants to trim the fat, so to speak. But also make sure that people aren't left high and dry.
I mean, that's fair.
Of course, this approach has its critics, who argue that cutting back on government services would harm vulnerable populations who rely on them. So it's a complex issue. But whether you agree with him or not, you have to admire Musk's willingness to challenge the status quo and spark debate.
He's not afraid to.
He definitely gets people talking. And speaking of shaking things up, let's talk about Musk's views on the future of work.
Oh, yeah, big one.
He's super bullish on automation, predicting that robots will eventually outnumber humans. This is where things
get interesting.
Get really interesting. While he acknowledges that automation could lead to job displacement, he doesn't seem overly concerned.
Not really.
He believes that humans will find new and more fulfilling ways to contribute, focusing on creativity, innovation, and things that require uniquely human qualities.
For sure.
But what about people who lose their jobs to robots? How will they support themselves?
He's talked about universal basic income as a potential solution. The idea is to provide everyone with a guaranteed minimum income, regardless of whether they have a job or not.
Isn't that kind of...
I mean, it's definitely
controversial.
Some people might say.
Some people say.
It discourages people from working.
There are definitely arguments on both sides. But Musk sees it as a necessary adaptation to a future where automation could significantly disrupt the workforce. He believes UBI could provide a safety net, allowing people to pursue their passions, start businesses, or simply have more leisure time.
It's a pretty radical departure from our current model of work and income.
Absolutely. Musk is asking us to rethink some fundamental about how society could function in a future transformed by technology.
Lots to ponder there.
Lots to ponder.
We've covered so much.
Yeah, we are.
Drug policy, government efficiency, the future of work.
The future.
Through it all, Musk has challenged us to think differently. But there's one more piece of this puzzle we need to address. His stark assessment of the 2024 election and what he believes is at stake for American democracy. Back for the final part of our Elon Musk deep dive.
The grand finale.
And it's time to tackle his most alarming prediction from this interview. That the 2024 election could be America's last chance to save its democracy.
It's a pretty dire warning.
It is.
Yes.
So let's break it down.
All right.
What exactly is he so worried about? So Musk paints a picture of the Democratic Party driven by a desire to stay in power no matter what. He argues that they're manipulating election outcomes, specifically in swing states. To create a one-party system.
That sounds intense.
It does. What's his evidence for this?
So he points to a few things. One is what he sees as a deliberate effort to increase the number of undocumented immigrants in swing states, assuming they'll vote Democrat and shift the balance of power.
Gotcha.
He also brings up the elimination of voter ID laws in some states, claiming it makes it impossible to track and prevent voter fraud.
So he's essentially accusing the Democrats of
pretty much
rigging the system.
That's his argument.
Yeah.
He's saying they're exploiting loopholes and manipulating demographics to stay in control. But it's important to note that he doesn't offer concrete proof for these claims. It's mostly based on his own observations and what he perceives as suspicious patterns.
So we're in speculation territory here?
To some extent, yes. But even if we set aside the question of whether his claims are accurate, it's worth asking why he's making these pronouncements.
Good point. It's not like he's a politician or a political commentator.
Exactly.
So what's his motivation for getting into
these controversial waters?
I think there are a few things at play. Firstly, he seems genuinely concerned about protecting democratic principles. He believes that free and fair elections are crucial, and he sees these supposed manipulations as a direct threat to that.
He's also been very vocal about his distrust of mainstream media, accusing them of bias and pushing false narratives, especially regarding Trump.
He contrasts this with his vision for X as a platform for open dialogue and unfiltered information.
So in a way, his political commentary could be seen as an extension of his fight for free speech and his belief in the power of an informed public.
Exactly.
But there's also a personal element to it.
Well, absolutely.
He's talked about being canceled and facing backlash for his views, which often go against the grain.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like he's pushing back against what he perceives as an attempt to silence dissenting voices. His support for figures like Trump could even be seen as a way of disrupting the status quo and challenging the establishment. So it's a mix of genuine concern
about democracy, a belief in free speech, and a personal sense of being targeted for his views.
It's complex.
It's complex. And regardless of his intentions, his statements about the 2024 election are bound to have an impact.
Huge impact.
He has a huge following.
For sure.
And his words carry weight.
Absolutely.
His warnings about the potential downfall of American democracy could resonate with voters who are already feeling disillusioned with the system.
It's a powerful message.
It's a powerful message.
Especially in our current climate of political polarization and distrust.
And while we can't predict the future, it's clear that Musk's involvement has added another layer of complexity to the political landscape. Well, that brings our deep dive into the mind of Elon Musk.
That was a lot.
To a close.
We covered a lot.
We've covered a lot.
From the future of AI.
From the future of AI.
To the future of American democracy.
To the future of American democracy.
I think what stands out to me is Musk's constant curiosity his willingness to challenge the norm,
Right.
and his unwavering faith in technology's ability to solve big problems.
Right.
Whether you agree with his specific views or not, there's no denying his influence.
Absolutely.
He's a force to be reckoned with.
He's a force to be reckoned with.
And as we navigate an increasingly complex world, we need more people like him who are willing to think big, question everything, and push the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah, it's a
future.
It's a future.
Full of both promise and peril.
Full of both promise and peril.
And as we move forward, it's important to face these challenges with open minds, a healthy dose of skepticism, and a commitment to seeking truth. Wherever it may lead.
That's a great note to end on.
I think so.
Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.